we're back.
We are.
Yes, and we have another guest.
And who is it, James?
It's Christine Danton. Welcome to the program,
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
It's lovely to see you, unusually in a wheelchair, which we'll explain.
We will, won't we?
Look, this is a horrible thing to say, but I really remember when I was a young man watching you on TV, being a contortionist in black and white, living black and white on Channel 9 on the Adelaide Tonight.
That's right, with Ernie Sigley.
Absolutely, and in fact even before that on other stations,
okay.
even Channel 7.
Okay.
Because I think you were the only contortionist at those days that we ever saw on television.
That's right. If you've seen a contortionist in Adelaide in the last 65 years, it was probably me.
Yes, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is.
Well, Christine, I keep thinking of you as Christina because you were billed in those days as...
I was built, well, my first name was La Christina.
Oh, La Christina.
La Christina, when I was about 16. And then I was the amazing Christina. But then I'm now Christine Danton because I'm a little bit more serious now.
Oh, OK. Let's have a look at the pictures of Christine when she was just but a little girl. Well, she wasn't that little in this shot.
I was probably about 18 in that photo. Yep. And that was done in Melbourne, and that was for a publicity for a newspaper, that one. And that one, I just contortion convention in Vegas, and I was the special guest there. I was flown over there to do that.
How old would you have been then?
I was 65 there. Okay. And that hoop, I just might say about that, that hoop is 13 inches in diameter, and I've been using that since I was 7.
And you get through that,
I still got through that one, yeah.
And I can see the is that a rosella? No, not rosella, that's
a sulphur crest.
Sulphur crest, of course.
Yes, that's a sulphur crest.
Cockatoo.
Yes, because one of the things that I have done is I had a bird show, and so that was one of my birds.
And what's important about this shot?
Well, just important about this shot is the head-toe touch, and I will need to bring in why I'm sitting here like this.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
Well, let's just say that's what you could do, and now you can't because you're in a wheelchair because...
I can't, well, I'm in a wheelchair because at the height...
You tripped on your high heels.
No, I did that once and landed up in hospital and explaining to the doctor how I actually kicked myself in the head with my high heel shoe, but that's another story. Okay, so about 18 months ago, and I was just at the height of my career. Everyone was very, very interested in the world's oldest contortionist, which I was 72 at the time. I am 73 now, not 74. And world's oldest contortionist. So I was at the height of my career, and I was all booked to go to the States, and I was going to do a show called Forever Young, Big Shots with Steve Harvey. Wasn't that clever? And I was booked to go to England to do Britain's Got Talent. And I had just had heaps of publicity in Australia, various things, you know, like just various programs in Australia. So I was really at the height of my career, and I know that sounds funny at 72, but everybody's like really interested in 72-year-old.
The fact that after all those years you were still able to do the same thing.
That's right. So it became more amazing as I actually got older. People, you know, became even more interested. Yeah. And so I was booked to do those 18 months ago, and I'd just come back from Perth and I was performing over there, and I got an issue with my hip. And I thought it was just one of those things that would just come and go, like you get little injuries, you know, and they go and all that. But this one didn't go, and so you know, lots of things like chiropractors and all sorts of things like that. I might even start crying in a minute.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yes, no.
Okay, and all that sort of thing, and think it would go away, and eventually it turned out there was actually my hip. And I really needed a hip replacement. But the problem was, because of my contortion work, there was a worry about it dislocating. And so I couldn't have it done then. But that was, you know, like 18 months ago. And now things have now got to crisis point that I'm actually going to be having a hip replacement in 2 weeks' time.
Now, people would say, well, clearly it's because of what she did.
Well, they probably would say that, and you have to question that as well. But I don't. I certainly think this reason, because both my parents had arthritis when they were 40, and I haven't got it till I was 72. So I feel that I was in very, very good condition until I was 72. So I feel like I staved it off, you know, for 30 years beyond what my parents got.
Unique. Do you know, I remember, Janice, it's funny, because when I was a kid watching... Well, I wasn't a kid, because it was only a couple of years difference between us.
Yes, only a couple of years, remember.
Only a couple.
Thank
only
you.
a couple.
Yes.
But because I remember my mother saying, of course, she's double-jointed, and people always think that you've got some sort of strange joint thing. But really, it's a lot more about hard work, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's about training. And it is training. It's like being a ballet dancer or being a musician.
But you said you were a dancer initially?
I was. I started off as a dancer.
So then why did you get into being a contortionist?
Because I was clever.
Good answer.
Because you could do something different.
I could do something, you know,
a
because
bit different.
I was just being a ballet dancer until I was old enough to go out to do my career.
Yeah.
But when I was still at school, when television started in Adelaide in 1959, I was doing the Channel 7 ballet twice a week. I was in the nighttime show and in the children's show, so I was doing 2 TV shows, and I was just 15 at the time. And at the time, I was also doing my contortion act and going out to places in Adelaide and working on my contortion act. So when I was old enough, I left Adelaide and took off onto my career, and so I stopped being a ballet dancer and became a contortionist after that.
Do you know, you're right in what you said. I reckon anybody and everybody who ever saw a floor show or went to a club would have seen you do what you did.
Yeah, they would have. I was the only one. In fact, there was very, very few contortionists even in Australia at that time. You know, there might have been 2 or 3. So it was very rare. There's a lot more now.
Is it always a female thing, or can men do it? Men
can do it, but females are naturally more flexible than men. So it's quite unusual for a man to do contortion work. But there's one called Philip Tigris he came here to do the fringe, and there are a few, and they usually front bending. Because you know there's front bending and back bending. Did you know that?
No.
Well, you see.
There you go.
There you get an education.
Exactly.
And so boys are usually front benders and girls are usually back benders.
Of course.
Usually.
Yes.
But I was both. And because I was both, I had my photo taken when I was 21, and it was in the Danton's medical journal about hypermobility, because I was doing a front bend and a back bend when I was 21. So that's still in that medical journal. But girls usually are more flexible than guys, because girls are built to have babies and guys usually don't have babies.
No, they don't. But
Not
do you
yet.
teach? Do you actually teach as well?
I have taught a little bit from time to time. But there's not a great call for contortionists. You don't have a great big school with all these contortionists.
No, but I just wondered if anybody had come to you wanting to do it, then you would obviously pass on your skills.
Yeah, I do, and I do on a one-on-one basis. And if somebody's really got talent, or if they're not even if they've got a real talent, but if they're just really, really keen, then I will teach them.
But you must have constantly worked on your body to be able to remain that flexible.
I did.
How long a day? Did you do something every day?
I did. When I was young, I was doing 4 hours a day, and and then as I got older, I actually found that it actually got easier. And I didn't have to train so much. So in the
everything had stretched that much. It was
it was more like a body memory.
Yes.
It was like a body memory. And at 55, I actually did retire, and I didn't do anything for 2.5 years. I didn't do any training. I was so over it. You know why I retired too? Because at that time, we were working around the hotels and drunks and everything. I was just over that. So I retired, and so for 2.5 years I didn't do anything, and then I decided that I really need to get back because things started to kind of droop a bit. And so I wanted to get back. So it had never been done before, as far as I know. Anyway, I started training, and at first it was, nothing happening, but I was such a desire to get back there. I was so focused on it that in 3 months I actually had my act back. So I got from 57 to now 72. I got another 15 years. But I feel that I would be able to get my flexibility back. It would be taking training to get there. I feel like I would get it back again.
You know, if all goes well with the hip replacement, I'd love to come back and talk to you again about this, because it would be interesting to see where your career takes you from now on. Or in fact, if we've been talking to somebody who's really interested, enjoying, because we'll be back with Bob Parr in a moment with just a wrap up of this episode.